Hello. Oh, all right. Hi, everyone. So excited that you're here. We're going to do a two-part panel. So we will have the adults up here for 20 minutes, and then our challenge winners will be up here for 20 minutes too. So it's going to be really great. So my name is Jess Boyce. I work on growth and partnerships at Endless Access, which is a nonprofit that teaches video game design to underrepresented communities. And we're part of a larger organization called Endless, who are supporters and sponsors for this conference, but just all around super fans of Games for Change. So super, super excited for this conversation. I'm a former STEM teacher, and so it makes my heart really happy to be able to talk about this. So I will have each of you just introduce yourselves, and we'll start.
So I'm Maria Burns-Ortiz. I'm Executive Director of the Global Game Jam. We run the world's largest game jam, bringing together 40,000 game developers across 800 sites in over 100 countries every year. We also run the world's largest student game jam, JGJ Next, which we have partnered with Games for Change for the Student Challenge. We're really excited about that. And then we work year-round through partner jams, looking at doing gaming ecosystem development around the world and how we can support and grow those communities. And then before coming to Global Game Jam, I ran an educational social impact game studio, doing a lot of co-design in this work with middle and high school kids who I think, and I'm sure we'll get into this when we talk about the jam, are the greatest, best game developers and game critics in the entire world.
Hi, I'm Vince. One of my hats is I'm the organizer, the lead curator for Games for Change in Hong Kong. And my other hat is I run a company called Press Start Academy, and we teach creativity, basically. So creative writing, creative storytelling, but also game design. So we've been working with Games for Change Learn for the past couple of years to bring the Games for Change Game Jam over to Hong Kong. This year we have plans to do game jams in Hong Kong and Shanghai, hopefully in Beijing, hopefully in Singapore as well. So yeah, everything is all happening out in Asia. You should come to my topic table at 1 p.m.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana, and I'm the Director of International Programs at G4C Learn. And on behalf of the G4C, I really want to thank you for all coming and celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Student Challenge with us, because it's really a big milestone for us. So what I do specifically in the Games for Change Learn, I make sure that educators and students all over the world have access to game design and have a possibility to use game design as the tool for not only learning, but also making our world a better place. Before joining G4C, I was the learning experience designer and impact game studio in South Africa. I'm actually still based in South Africa. And before that, I also was an educator. I guess once educator, forever educator. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Pack. I am the head of operations at Playing for the Planet, which is a UN-facilitated initiative where we work with the video games industry to, on the one hand side, decarbonize the industry, and on the other hand, to use existing games with live audiences to teach people about climate and the environment. And this year, we're actually going to be, for the first year, teaming up with the Student Challenge as the environmental theme partner. So really excited about that.
All right, so we will hop right into it. Tatiana, can you talk to us about what the Student Challenge is and how much it has grown and changed over the last 10 years?
Thank you so much. I guess it's a good question. So in general, Student Challenge is the international game design competition that invites young people from 10 to 25 to design games for impact that solves real-world challenges, and it's inspired by Sustainable Development Goals. So this initiative started back in 2014, 2015. So as the real small initiative for 500 students in New York, as the project of how can we use games to improve the life in the communities. And over the 10 years, we has grown to 70,000 students who went through the program in 91 countries.
You can clap for that. That's amazing.
And that competition inspired the creation of 7,000 games for impact created by youth. So I think, and we say it's 10 years, but it's really just the beginning.
Wow. All right, Vince, why teach impact game design?
I think it's a no-brainer because we work with students, we work with parents, we work with teachers, and everybody here is a convert to game design, but not everybody recognizes the amount of work that goes into game design. And talk about work as in like higher order thinking skills. There's systems thinking, systems design, design thinking, a lot of storytelling as well. That is different from just game development. So there's the engineering part, the technical part, there's the design piece, right? And so if many people sleep on that, then it's really, really great also to have the social impact angle because it just kind of, we check all the boxes. And so sometimes we would talk to schools and we would talk to parents and they're like, game design, SDGs, nice. So I think realistically, it also helps students with their portfolios, going to college or finding jobs and things like that, especially if they're going into the game industry. But the idea of creating games as a form of messaging, as a form of campaigning, is also really good practice in terms of storytelling skills and advocacy skills as well. So yeah, it's the best.
We actually were talking about that yesterday. I had a chance to sit down with the game makers, and we were talking about how there's so much more that goes into it than initially thought, right? Tatiana, do you have anything you want to add on to that?
I guess one of the things also why we would like to teach students game design is really bring everyone together around something that is already familiar, but also at the same time bringing something that is inside of you, right? Because especially for the student challenge, it covers the young audience, and we all would like to express ourselves, but sometimes we don't know what is the way of doing this. And specifically because when we talk about social impact and specifically world problems, of course, even though the kids are still young, they do have their opinion, and their opinion really matters. And using game design as the tool to really put your thoughts and your hopes and the things that you're really dreaming about and how they can impact the world, it's really important because games is the media that not only they know, but also they understand.
Yes, please.
I didn't talk too much about like the kids, like the students demographic in the thing just now. It's really interesting to talk about game design to people who already know and love games inside out, and then be like, have you tried designing one yourself? And they're like, no. And then they always think it's super easy, and then they get into it and it's like super hard. And like seeing them struggle is great. But emerging on the other side with something that they're proud of. I mean, educators, right? Like that's like agency is such an important part of that entire equation. And so, yeah, just adding to that.
Great. All right, Lisa, why is it important to use the SDGs as a framework for developing new student challenge themes?
Yeah, so the SDGs are in a tough spot, and I looked up some numbers and I wrote them down here just to make sure I'm not sharing wrong things, but only 17% of the 169 accessible SDG targets are on track as per the latest report. And 48% of them lag behind, and 35% are stagnant or regressing. So I think looking at the student challenge, it provides such an amazing space to shine light on all the different SDGs from a different angle that we might do otherwise, not through games, by people that are at a different stage in life. So I think focusing on the SDGs is just an amazing way to potentially come up with new solutions, new ideas on how we can look at these challenges. So I think, yeah, that's really the main reason. And with the work that we do at Playing for the Planet, we work mostly with the industry. and games that are already out there. So there's only a limited space to look at these topics and to integrate them into an already existing project. So with students, they start from scratch. They have the storytelling that Vince mentioned and the advocacy for these topics. I think that's why this is such a beautiful place to focus on all these different topics.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Maria, how can we ensure the program maintains its quality, inclusivity, and youth-centered focus as it expands?
I think it's really important that you're working with folks on the ground, right? I think part of what's made Global Game Jam so successful is we have a model, and we say, we have, an organization, then we have, committees, and we have regional organizers, state organizers, but we also delegate and work a lot with the folks on the ground because there's nothing that works universally everywhere. And so by sharing best practices and saying, here's what we found to be most successful, but also, and this is, like I said, someone who's worked with a lot of classrooms too, I'd say this is universal to educators too, is nothing works as well in your classroom as what you think works, right? Like you can come and say, hey, you should do it this way, and a teacher will say, that will not work in my classroom, I want to do it that way. And we try and give a lot of leeway in saying, hey, we found this works, but if something else works for you, do that. And I think that's the core part of Scales. You give people the best practices, you give them, the resources, materials, but you also say you're going to know what works better for your students, for your community, your culture than we do. And that, I think, is the key to ensuring that it scales successfully and in a way that's really authentic, because kids will call you out if it does not feel genuine and authentic. And so to be able to make sure that it resonates with them, because if it connects with them, they're going to be wanting to take part of it. If it feels like this thing that they have to do in this exact formula, it's probably not going to be scalable.
Thank you. Vince, what role do partnerships with schools, nonprofits, tech companies, or funders play in successful scaling efforts?
Huge role. So how we've kind of, at least in my experience, how we've done it in Hong Kong is I think schools are the main starting point because that just gives you the scale and the reach. And the most important thing is you're also working with teachers who buy into this, right? So you have internal champions within the schools. And actually the teachers do such amazing evangelical work too. In a couple of weeks, we would get another call from another teacher be like, hey, I want to do that in my school. And that kind of ripple effect makes it pretty organic, which is pretty great. I guess it's also been really cool to also, I guess, step into the role of leading Games for Change in Hong Kong, because there is that additional, I guess, partnership and collaboration with the wider community. And even if not all the schools are bringing us in to do game jams or organizing game design events. What happened? Our festival just happened like 3 weeks ago, and we actually had a lot of teachers just randomly show up, and they're like, "We just want to check it out." And the interesting thing is that there are already some schools, especially international schools, that have media tech teachers, IT teachers, STEM teachers that are already running some form of game design program. So we've kind of connected with them even outside of running a game jam because it's all about building the community. And so we actually had a couple of exhibitors at our arcade that were student booths, not like college students, but like middle school students, like grade 8 students. Some school from Shenzhen rocked up and they had like a whole portfolio of like 200 games loaded on like an old Game Boy because they bought like these like old programmable Game Boy type things. And they've been running this program for like the past 5 years, and like everybody went to see their games, and it was the 8th grader who was leading that club, kind of presenting to everybody. So that kind of creates a ripple effect because then other teachers are like, I want to do that, and other students are like, I want to do that, right? So that type of ecosystem effect is pretty cool. And then once you have that, the companies are going to be like, I want to help support. Universities want to help support as well. So yeah, we start with the schools and the teachers.
You can absolutely never underestimate when a teacher is excited about something because they're going to talk about it to every single person that they see, right? And it just spreads. I love that. Maria, what strategies have you found effective for training facilitators or mentors at scale while preserving the core values of the program?
So we have an onboarding that we do. We have regional organizers, and we onboard the regional organizers, and then so each regional organizer has probably 10 site organizers under them, and then they're able to speak to them both in their language, in ways that are culturally reflective and resonant. So we do that. It has to be having those partners on the ground that can do that training piece, and really also then asking feedback, right? Because I think that's the other thing is we hear from people who say, that would never work here. That's fine. So then we are able to say, then let's try other ways and continuously iterating the way that we do our training, because also the technology changes, what students are interested in changes. But so really just working with the folks on the ground and then making those changes and making sure that everybody knows, again, that it's not, there's no perfect recipe. And so really a lot of it is also knowledge sharing. And that's something that we're really working on more this year as well, is connecting different people, not just within regions, but other places, right? So what it looks like in rural areas is going to be different than what it looks like in very urban areas. I was talking to folks about the challenges of when you're based on an island, right? Like to build your ecosystem and to make those connections. And that really those things may be very geographically diverse, but have more similarities than someone that's much closer. And so really creating opportunities where we're learning from each other and everyone is training each other as opposed to this perfect formula.
All right, we've got a couple more minutes, but I want to hear from each of you speaking to your organizational short and long-term goals around teaching youth to become game designers.
I think for us at Playing for the Planet, it's very new to work with students since we mostly work with the industry. But what we've seen is one of our alliance members, Timmy Studios in China, part of Tencent, they hosted a student jam in China, I think 4 years ago, which was a really amazing success. And that really inspired us and showed us that there is much more that we can do with the games industry as well. But since we're only a tiny team of 4, every year we started thinking about this, doing more, but we never had the resources to really turn it into something. So this year, I think with the Student Challenge and the Global Game Jam, it's finally going to happen, and I think there will be a lot of excitement around that and good things that come out of it, and then hopefully we get to do more based on that.
Yeah, I guess for us, we've reached a really great milestone of 10 years. But of course, we want to do more. And today we were talking about scaling. And it's really for us one of the most important goals to make sure that Student Challenge reaches as many kids worldwide as possible, regardless of their background. And I guess this year we were really lucky with the support of Endless to be able to scale the competition all over the world. But of course, we want to reach more and more countries, and especially the students in the communities where a lot of the times we talk about game design as something digital, but also let's not forget that it's not available to everywhere in the world, but still the language of play is universal, and we want to make sure that by providing different opportunities, not creating only digital games, but still tabletop games, we make this possible for as many kids and young adults in the world, because also this year it was possible for the first time to really extend the age of the program. Before it was only for middle school and high school students, and this year we piloted this for college or university age students, basically the youth from 18 to 25, which has really also brought us a lot of reach to the audience, not only for teaching game design because they already might know how to do this, but also bringing to the next level and involved some students that were not involved in the game design, but studying subject matter like sociology, psychology, and bringing the expertise into the club. So reaching more and more, of course, it's our goal.
I'm really excited about like the game jam initiatives, and really excited about working with Games for Change Learn on all the student challenge stuff. I gotta do a little humble brag. So last year, we brought the game jam to Hong Kong for the first time in our pilot school. Partner was the Harbor School. Funny that you mentioned tabletop, because one of our 15 students, first year that Hong Kong participated, won the best tabletop prize, like the global prize. And so that actually was a really cool moment, because everybody was like, oh, what's going on? Like, what is this? And funnily enough, that student came back as a volunteer for our festival this year. So that it's like a quite nice kind of full circle moment. But we're excited to continue doing the game jams. But I think right now, we also have a small team in Hong Kong, so we can't do everything. We can't run like the full curriculum with all the schools, obviously around the region. So something that we're working on right now is kind of like a road trip. Like we're taking this on tour. So we're going to do a game jam in Hong Kong. We're going to do a game jam, like I said, like in Shanghai, Singapore, and things like that. And then we're going to work with teachers on the ground there to equip them and empower them to take that game jam forward, go back into their classrooms and finish up their projects for submissions to the student challenge, so that we can move from 15 students in one school in Hong Kong to, I don't know how many, I'll report back next year. Yes, I will report back next year. And just to finish off, the idea is also, because we are also running the Games for Change Hong Kong Festival, to invite all of these participating schools to come to Hong Kong to showcase their games, for the students to play each other's games. So that becomes also a ripple effect in itself. Everybody else is like, I want in on that. And so hopefully that takes care of the scaling part for us too.
You know, for us, I think there's two things. One of them is, I think it's not just about creating game developers and creating game creators. It's also about exposing youth to these possibilities, right? And whether you, and in a lot of places there's not game design communities necessarily. They don't know game developers, but it's this idea of engaging them in something that they didn't know was a possibility and opening that up to any other possibilities, whether that's in the game space, whether it's in the tech space, whether it's art, whatever that looks like. So I think that's a big part of when we look at what we can do and how we're shaping those perspectives, is it's not just you should become a game maker, but you can do incredible things. You can make incredible things. So that for us is part of it, just that empowerment piece. And then the other thing that we're really excited about, and that I really think, and I think anyone coming from education knows, that it's not a zero-sum game. No one alone is winning education and the best education thing. It's about the collaboration piece and working together. And for us, it's like, we know we do game jams and we do them really well and we're excited, but we're excited then that we get to do game jams and partner with the Student Challenge, where then the students can submit those games to be among the best in the world and be part of that challenge and just be part of that greater community, and then work with folks like Playing for the Planet to, you know, make the world better and try and help, you know, tackle climate change through games. And so I think for us, it's also about finding all of those other pieces, and instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, everyone just finding ways that we can all work together and make it a better, you know, world for the kids that were participating in those Student Challenge and kids everywhere.
All right. So thank you all. This is incredible. And now I'd love the conversation to keep going. And I don't want to say that the real reason people are here is to hear from the students that won. However, we do want to bring them up. So thank you all so much for this incredible conversation. And now you all can come on up. It's up to you. If you want to sit in order, you can, but you don't have to. Right. You all ready? Okay, so these are the student winners from the creators of the scarcity line. So what we want to do is just hear from you all. Introduce yourselves. You can say where you go to school, what your major is, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Hanwen Liu, and I'm from Beijing, China, and I'm an international student at University of Southern California. My major is game design.
Hi everyone, my name is Annabelle and I'm from San Jose in the Bay Area and I'm currently also studying game design at USC.
Hi everyone, I'm Ansha. I'm also from the Bay Area. I go to Cornell University studying computer science.
Hi everyone, I'm Zia, and I'm both from Beijing and from the Bay Area, and I major in game art. And thank you guys for coming to our panel. Oh, I'm from USC. Fight on.
All right, so we're going to start with a fun one. First, I want you to say how you got involved in the Student Challenge in general, but then also I want to know what your favorite game is to play and why.
So how I know this, how I know the Game for Change challenge is actually from Annabelle. Like she's one that know this and invite all of us to make the game together. Yeah. And my favorite game, I feel like it's a common answer. My favorite game would be Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, very common answer. Two. But the first one is also very good. Yeah, there are a lot of games I like, from indie games to AAA games, but I feel like Red Dead Redemption is a like a very polished game from every aspect. So like it's a very high point at every aspect I would give. And also I played that game during the time I decided to become a game designer, so it's also have a special meaning for me. Yeah.
I found out about the G4C competition through like USC had like a games newsletter, so they kind of posted competition there, and I saw that and I was like, okay, let's just try it. And my favorite game is this game called Arknights, and it's actually like the game that inspired me to get into game design at all, because the game has like really great visuals and gameplay, but what really like drew me into the game and like made me stay was its story, which while it's fictional, it draws upon like real life social issues. And I realized that like the game had me like researching like Himalayan tribes and the social issues they face, because it was really that engaging. So that really made me realize the impact of games.
I got into G4C also because of Annabelle. So we were friends in high school, and we actually met because we were like working on a game project together. And she just asked me if I wanted to like try this game jam, and I was like, count me in. And I would say my favorite game is Undertale. I'm really inspired by like how they incorporated the gameplay like into like the messages and like the themes of the story itself. Like for example, it's a turn-based kind of combat game, but you have the option of, instead of fighting the enemies, to instead like talk with them and befriend them, which I think is like a very cool commentary on like how we should view games, like whether they're entertainment or like a way to like connect with others.
Yeah, so Annabelle texted me one afternoon saying, do this concept, and that's how I got in. Yes, but this is an incredible honor. We're very grateful for this opportunity to be here. My favorite game, since we already have a gacha game in our team, so I'm gonna say Splatoon 3 is my favorite game. It's so visual appealing to an artist, so I don't think anyone majored in art can ever resist such a cool game like Splatoon. So yes.
Awesome. All right, it all comes back to Annabelle, huh? Amazing. All right, so Annabelle, what theme did you all address with your game, and why is this topic important to you?
The theme we addressed for our game was Outplay Hunger, and the reason we chose this theme was actually because we realized that if we wanted to make a really good game that could actually resonate with people, it had to be like an issue that we could personally relate to. And for me, like food waste is actually something that happens in like daily life. Like at our school, like after lunch ends, there's literally like pizza slices just on the ground. Like there's a lot of food waste and it's pretty bad. So I realized that this was an issue that really resonated with me and that we could really make something special with this.
All right, both Anne and Annabelle. Why do you think it's important to learn how to make games?
So like in our increasingly technological age, a lot of people are getting exposed to like all forms of digital content, games and interactive media being one of them. And I think games just have the potential to be like a really good medium for like social messaging, calls to action, like just exposing people to a lot of different perspectives that they might never have thought of before. Like other digital media like movie, TV shows are now considered like art forms and are like have a lot of representation. So why not make games another way to spread a message?
Yeah, and I also think learning to make games is really great as like a form of personal growth, just because games are so like interdisciplinary and require knowledge in so many fields. And I think just for like people learning it, like you'll learn so much personally, and you can always apply these skills no matter where you go.
All right, so how has learning game design changed your perception of playing games? And when you want to start?
I think there are two things I feel from this question, from learning games. The first one is like sometimes it's harder to play the game from the player perspective. Like if I'm a player, I would like do the things I want and go somewhere I want. But when I begin to study game design, sometimes I will think like what is designer wants me to do, but it's actually a bit nervous at some time. But yeah, I think it's important to find my player heart again. And also another thing I learned is that like many people now they believe that there's a perfect formula for games, but I think there maybe have some like perfect rules for fundamental rules for games, but games what make games great is their uniqueness, and each great game has their own uniqueness. So and people is there's and people don't need to critique others because they like different kind of games, because every game is unique and everyone is unique and people will like different games. Yeah.
So yeah, after like I got like interested in game design, I tried designing my first game, which was like a dress-up game, which sounds really easy, and I'm like, okay, this is just gonna take a week. And I was like completely wrong about that. It took us 3 months. So this is how I realized that game design is way harder than it looks like. And after I started designing games and I went back to play games, this made me realize how much effort was really put into these games. And sometimes when I like play games or like browse games on the internet, like people like start bashing a game because of like their monetization or like some like one particular system wasn't well done, and then they start saying the entire game is bad. But like after I started designing games, I realized like a lot of effort was put into this. Like even if they have one bad aspect, like there's so many other aspects that was really well done, and like so much people worked on this project together, and it really does deserve more appreciation.
All right, Zio, what makes a successful game in your opinion?
So I would like to dive into this question from like an artist perspective, because before I become involved in like game development, I was a fine art student, and there's a very interesting conversation in art about like what defines a good piece of art. And I think good art can't be very like pretty or very skillful, but I think for a successful art, it's always like about resonating and how you really connects with the artwork. That like usually artworks that are thought-provoking are the more successful ones. So I think it also applies to like how we define games, because I feel like game is a much more interactive medium than fine art. So I think what defines a more successful game is also that how we could apply ourselves, we could feel being seen by games, we can actually like feel ourselves in the characters and in the experience. I think that is what makes a game successful.
Yeah, and as a game designer, I feel like what make game successful is like when the whole team know what kind of experience you want to achieve, because every game I think is a experience for players, and as the team know what kind of experience they want to create, they will be able to like to make decisions, and every decision has its own pros and cons. I think what make game successful is when the team know like what can be utilized, what should be abandoned, and like yeah, this kind of things. And also is to listen from the player feedback. Yeah, because the player voice also matters.
All right, so can you tell us about the scarcity line? So we know what the theme was, but we'd love to hear a little bit more about the gameplay and how it was designing it, how it was creating it. So whoever wants to speak.
So one thing about the hunger and the scarcity, I realized is that it's not only about saving food, but also about the distribution. Because if I, as a person, I save some food in New York or in Beijing, that might not affect people from rural area or poor people, because the food I save might not be delivered to them. It might just go to like trash can with like others. So that's affect how we design the gameplay, which is to give the food to people in need.
Okay, another part of our gameplay we wanted to think about was nutrition and like the importance of it. So another puzzle that we had in our game involved fitting differently shaped pieces of food like into a grid while also thinking about the nutritional value of each food item. So this was kind of based off of our own research while we were designing the game. So we saw that in a lot of like grocery stores and produce, food that's considered ugly or deformed, like that wasn't grown properly, is often thrown away because no one wants to buy it. But even though the food might look a little unappealing visually, it still has the same nutritional value as like a good-looking piece of produce. And we wanted to emphasize through a block puzzle, like food, no matter its shape or size, like all has its importance and shouldn't be wasted.
And yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the story and how we tied all the mechanics in to connect to the theme of outplay hunger. So as like Hawaiian had mentioned before, like distribution is a major problem when it comes to the food hunger, like food and the world hunger issue. Like we did some research, and there's actually like technically enough food for everyone in the world, but one of the major issues is with like distribution and actually getting the food to the right people. And so through this, the story kind of covers like the main character is like the president of a food bank, and they kind of have to figure out distribution, but at the same time, they're facing issues like political corruption, where people are taking food for their own good instead of actually distributing it. And so another part is that while food is often like given out at food shelters, oftentimes it's not good food. And as Anne mentioned, like nutrition is important. If you don't get good food, you're not going to have energy, and you can't actually do any real work. So our game kind of ties in that part about like distributing nutritious food along with like distributing food like efficiently to raise awareness to the food and world hunger issue, and how it's way more than just we don't have enough food.
I want to hear about any challenges that you had while you were creating this game. Is there anything that stands out that you had to overcome? Nothing. It was perfect. It was so easy. Best thing we've ever done.
I think
Okay.
yeah. Like
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the I think the biggest challenge for me is to yeah, I think the biggest challenge for me is the programming. I'm not a very talented programmer, so and it's like the very first game I made with Unity, so there are a lot of things I need to learn, and I'm also the part designer for the game, so I have to like make the balance between how much time I should put into design and how much time I should save for the programming. So yeah, that is the difficult part for me.
Another challenge while designing the game was kind of getting into the shoes of the player, thinking about it from like a new player's perspective rather than from us who already know the game like in and out. So one thing we did is like kind of halfway through the project, like Annabelle texted me one day and was like, "We need to add a tutorial." So we also like incorporated that and the hint system into the game to assist the player with the puzzles.
Yeah, another thing, I guess, another question we had while designing the mechanics of the game was, so one of our puzzles was like delivering food to like the maximum amount of people in like a limited time. And we were thinking about how we wanted to like limit players. We were like one potential thing we could do was to limit players through like time. Like you would have 1 minute to try to distribute it to everyone. Or we were thinking like you limit the amount of player like steps. So the players can only walk a certain amount of steps. So we were kind of like going back and forth between these ideas, but we also considered like what we really wanted to convey. And we thought that like putting on a timer, while it can show urgency, it does feel like, it feels like it doesn't give players enough time to really think about what they're doing. And it really makes it feel like hopeless, like you won't get to everyone in that amount of time. And in the end, like we still do want to convey hope and the fact that, you know, that the issue is bad, but it's not like it can't be changed. If everyone is willing to like contribute to this, like we can make small steps and eventually make a big change. So eventually we decided to go with the idea of like limiting players through the number of steps they can take and allowing them to be able to like retry infinitely to eventually get to the best answer.
The most challenging part of this game is beating the game itself on my own. Yes, it's on itch.io, so please try it out if you're interested.
Yes,
Oh,
go
yeah,
to the
it
arcade
is.
upstairs and
Yeah.
play too.
It's so bizarre seeing like a keyboard game being on an arcade. We have to do the keyboard and mouse on an arcade machine, but yeah. Yes, it is.
All right, so just one last question for you. I want to know your thoughts on why social impact games are important.
I think game is, like, especially video games, is a very new type of form, and as the very rare art genre that is interactive, that there are so many possibilities we haven't discovered with games, because with like interactivity, we can put people into the scenarios we create, and that's the best way to let them feel the problem we are having, and to make them think from their sorry, so bad English of me. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say.
I wanted to add on to Hawen's point, which is that like social issues is in every part of our world, but like honestly speaking, I feel like most people don't truly care about it until it personally affects them. Just because it's too big of an issue, you can't really envision it. Like the world is gonna die in like 100 years. Like yeah, but I don't really personally feel that. And so one thing that I think games exceed as Hawen mentioned, is making you truly feel for it. Like like I mentioned in the really beginning, I liked Arknights, and they had like a story about like the Himalayan tribe. Like I wouldn't know anything about that. I wouldn't really care about that at all if it weren't for the story within the game. So one thing that games are really powerful at is making you care for stuff that you might not be able to experience yourself. Like in a lot of fantasy games, there's like wars and stuff, and a lot of people probably have never personally experienced one, but through games, they're able to really feel the emotions, and I think this is like a really powerful aspect of games that should definitely be used for social impact.
Right. Thank you all so much for taking time being here. Congratulations again for winning, and everyone make sure that you go up to the arcade and get to play the Scarcity line if you haven't.